but that kind of is going to lead into my thoughts about the halftime show in general.
So my thoughts on the game, personally, it was uh it was a good football game for the Eagles. And I think a lot of people were so focused on the halftime show that they didn't even realize that that's not what we're there for. The people that were there for it, like myself, really didn't have a dog in the fight because my team's the Chicago Bears, sometimes the Titans,
Yeah,
Pittsburgh
yeah,
Steelers.
yeah.
So if I'm not complaining, I don't see why people are complaining about the halftime show that was for one of the NFL games out of all the other games that were played throughout the year. And that just goes to show that certain people know that it's bigger than them, and they're pretty much just jealous, in my opinion, that there was a black person out there that they didn't really appreciate their music. They weren't a fan of the music. And like you said, we've been listening to country on NFL games, Monday Night Football theme songs, and the national anthem. And it's just, again, there's always a country star for a predominantly African American sport. That's who's playing the game. And I've never heard of any of them complaining about the halftime show or the Star Spangled Banner, except maybe Colin Kaepernick. And then, he was blackballed. So I just think it's a lot of nerve that people are complaining about the show. And the show was a very good show. I'm not the biggest Kendrick Lamar fan, but I mean, the halftime performance, especially from the TV screen, was very, very nice to watch. It was very engaging. And I appreciated that because, again, for the people that were actually there at the game, they were there taking in kind of the atmosphere from the crowd, and when the touchdowns were actually being passed, just being in that atmosphere, that's one thing. But for us at home, we want a spectacle. We want to be able to see this stuff in 4K and all of that, and that's what the halftime show brought. That's what the cameramen who were filming the game brought, and we shouldn't really be tripping because it's not the genre of music that a lot of the fans are used to. But that's just my take.
Well, I think you brought up several points, and you know how I like to take it way, way back. Shout out to the old people like myself. But, there was a time where even my dad, so we don't have to go back that terribly far, but I can remember car rides where we were listening to baseball games. A fate worse than death. Watching paint dry is the closest example I can give you for that. But the announcers knew that they had to be specific and entertaining, or else even my dad would have been like, "Hey, this is like watching paint dry." So you fast forward, like you made the point to the halftime show and how it really is made for people watching it, on TV and not necessarily the stadium. But if you think about it, you could say that about high school football games, college football games. The bands, for example, the bands are very critical to engaging the spirit and the mood of the in-person audience, but more often than not, for like college halftime and everything, they don't even show the bands, for
Yeah.
people at home. So you're right. It's a strategic. If you think about the Grammy Awards, trust me, the people sitting in the audience, as special as they may have felt, did not get to see everything that we saw at home.
Right.
Right. They had one lens, and that was the eyeball. So, again, I agree. I definitely agree with that point. I would like to drive home also, Kendrick Lamar has a new fan in me now. And it's not necessarily even because of the music. I appreciated the artistry. I appreciated very much the symbolic nature of everything that was done. And hey, let's face it, I am the type of person that matches energy.
Yeah.
Right? So what you cannot say is that performance did not match the energy of what we're currently experiencing as a culture.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I think he was spot on with that. I appreciated my girl Serena doing the cutest sea walk I've ever seen in my life. But I think a lot of people don't remember that during one of her celebrations at Wimbledon, she did a really quick, excited, version of that, and she was dragged through the media. Oh, that's so unprofessional, blah blah blah. So listen, this is what we've done. What we've done, and I'm still walking on air. I just have to tell you because it felt so good to be me historically in that moment, watching people step into their own power without the fear. I mean, even the Samuel L. Jackson kind of references to what we should and shouldn't do, there were so many layers to that performance. A lot of people keep talking about Drake, Drake, Drake. And, I'm like, Drake who? The message in that performance was so zoomed out in terms of what we're going through culturally that I think, Drake could have gotten missed. In fact, I think with a lot of generations, they're like, Drake who? I think one of the important things is that there was messaging going on when we had a particular world leadership figurehead in the stadium, and I feel like that was a very brave thing to do. I was discussing this morning with my husband how I'm seeing in news feeds where I'll just say it, the president was saying derogatory things and talking about how Taylor Swift was booed in the stadium and everything, and he was booed in the stadium. Now maybe I stepped away and missed the part where Taylor Swift was booed, but hey, let's break it down. Taylor Swift is a pop star, a pop icon, if you will. She is not the head of state. Correct. In any way, shape, or form. So I don't want my title of petty to get stripped, but it looks like I've got a huge contender anytime someone who is supposed to be the leader of the free world is stooping. Not that Taylor Swift is low, but hey, so you've got global politics and then you've got pop music. What are you doing?
Yeah, that was it's funny how Trump, for the longest time, and I think that's part of the reason that he became the president. Obviously, there was a lot that went into that, but he's just always at the forefront trying to get attention, garner attention, and that's really what you saw with the game as well. And I think a lot of people are getting more and more just embarrassed by what he's doing because he is doing exactly what he said he was going to do, and a lot of people just weren't paying attention 100% on what he was saying that he was going to do. But he has a record of being very petty when it comes to anything. And it's almost, for somebody his age, you wouldn't expect him to be that childish. I know kindergartners who are not as childish as the president of the United States. And I got to give it to him. That's part of the reason that he's the president, because a lot of the voters, I'd say the majority of the voters that are out there are pretty childish because, again, he's shown you time after time who he is, what he stands for. And I can't be mad at him for being himself. And that's one thing I think a lot of people do kind of like about him is he'll go out there. He doesn't care if he's petty. He doesn't care if he's goofy. He doesn't care if he's childish. He's going to do what he wants to do. He's going to say what's on his mind. And to be, like you said, in that realm, to be the head of state for the United States of America, and you're over here trying to beef with Taylor Swift, I mean, it does kind of show who you really are. And